Well, alright, let's get started with some of the basic bitch questions.
Oh, okay.
What are some of your influences as an artist?
Lots of comic books. I read lots of comic books as a kid. My favorites were the Dark Horse comics. I was told this story before, but it's worth repeating. I was a very sheltered child when I was a kid. My mother kept me from R-rated movies and that sort of thing, and never I wasn't allowed to watch MTV or any of that crap, and definitely no comic books. Right? My father was in the military, so he never was home. He was off doing military stuff in mostly South America, if I understand. But so I never really got exposed to this sort of stuff when I was younger. So my 16th birthday comes up. My dad is home, and he says, "Hey, for your birthday, boy, you want to go camping with your old man?" Fuck yes, I'd go camping with my old man. He's barely ever home. I'm excited to spend some time with him, especially away from my two brothers and my two sisters, just me and the old man. And the old man, we get to the campground, we set up the tents, we set up the fire. We've been camping several times before. And he says, "Hey, there's a movie out that I want to see. You want to come with me?" I said, "Sure, Dad, let's go." And he says it's an R-rated movie. And I'm like, "Oh, I've never been to an R-rated movie before. Haven't even seen one on TV. What kind of R-rated movie is it?" He says, "Well, the name of the R-rated movie is Alien 3. I'm like, "Oh. I've heard about that one. It was on the TV a couple of times. I saw the ads for it. It scared the poop out of me." So Dad says, "Nah, don't worry. It'll be fine." So we load up in the van. We put out the fire. We get the campsite all settled up. And we go to the movie. And all through the drive toward the movie, the old man is explaining to me everything that happened in Alien and Aliens to lead up to Alien 3, so I could be all ready, and everything I heard was horrible, right?
Yeah, it sure is.
I was absolutely terrified, and we start watching the movie, and damn near from the word go, I'm looking up the theater floor for the whole time, and I'm just trying to tell myself that somebody is just violently distraught over his broken celery, because I keep hearing the snapping wet sounds. But it sort of awoken something in me. I was really interested. Every time I looked up, I'd see something that was just sort of kind of fascinating me, especially that creature, the H.R. Giger creature.
The xenomorph?
Yeah. And so one day, coming home from school, we let out early, and I'm walking home, and I walk past Old Larry's comic book shop. It's long since closed now. But inside the window of Old Larry's comic book shop is a poster of the xenomorph, and he's just sort of crouched over a pile of bodies. And I go in because sort of attracted to that sort of thing now, and I see there's a whole shitload of comics about these characters, all published by Dark Horse Publishing, and it's they're all self-contained stories, so I don't have to buy 1,000 issues into the back catalog to keep up. And they're all done by different artists and different writers, and it's just by collecting these books, I get exposed to a whole bunch of different comic styles. And of course, Dark Horse also does The Predator, so I started watching those movies. I started collecting those comics, and I just started feeling like, telling stories was the thing I was going to do. And I didn't really have the money for a movie or a set or a camera or film crew, that sort of thing. Actors, God forbid actors. But I had enough money for pencils and paper, and so I start drawing. And the first comic I ever draw is The Predator versus the Lion King, and it's this crappy old comic that I still have. But
has Dad ever been on the internet?
I hope to God not. But it's a piece of shit. But as I keep exploring comics as a possible entry, I run into Spawn by Todd McFarlane. I was really kind of influenced by that because of always been interested in theological themes, and Spawn just sort of sits in the middle of comic book superhero and religious text, and so that really attracted me. And then I was absolutely done when I go to the comic shop and I see sitting on the shelf a copy of Shanda the Panda. I don't remember which issue it was, but it was the issue where they were parroting the James Bond poster with Shanda the Panda sort of sitting in the famous barrel shot, right? And right next to that was a copy of Furlong. Furlough. And so I pick up those two comics, and I get introduced to the furry fandom this way. Michael Curtis, I think, is responsible for Shanda the Panda. And in that issue of Furlough, there was a segment of Rosa Gibson's escape to New York, her story about Jack Salem, and that was really tripping my wire back then.
And later on, you got to collaborate with Roz Gibson as well.
Oh yeah, it was several years later when I decided to go to my not my first furry con, but my first furry con away from home in California. I met Roz, and I explained how much I loved her books, and she barely noticed me at the time because I really hadn't done anything. I've since been lucky enough to work with her several times, and we still do weekly calls, and I'm very, very, very proud to call her a friend. But it's just sort of expanded from there. So Roz is definitely an influence. Todd McFarlane's definitely an influence. Greg Capullo, the guy who took over for Spawn after Todd was done drawing it. Just a number of influences. Jeff Smith? Jeff Smith does Bone, right? Dave Sims, Cerebus was definitely an influence. Just all sorts of comic book influence. And of course, the GOAT, H.R. Geiger. Is it Geiger or Giger? I think it's Giger. But, yeah, so, influences.
Well, I think everybody had their suspicions about Spawn being an influence.
No, there definitely is a Spawn influence, especially with the character designs in Jack. I don't think it was conscious that I was referencing it with my art, but it's definitely there.
Man, you were lucky to find furry comics just lying around in comic shops like that. I grew up in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, so I had no idea what furry was until the internet came around. I don't know, maybe it's a generational thing.
Yeah, no, I did definitely get lucky finding the comic shops like old areas, and like I said, it's defunct now, but it was definitely good fortune to be living in an area where that was accessible. Seattle is well known for its grunge, but it's always have a budding underground artistic scene to it, and that's of course spread out to the area surrounding. So I was able to meet up with lots of different artists who were trying to push themselves into the comic scene. None of us ever really made it, but we tried.
Well, maybe not made it mainstream, but still.
Yeah.
Now, if I could go way back in time, could you tell us about Rework the Dead?
Oh, yeah. That was a time when, well, like I said, I hadn't been exposed to R-rated movies before I was 16. And after I got exposed to them, I was just devouring them all over the place. Two of my favorites at that time was Aliens, the second one, and George Romero's the one in the mall. What is it? Dawn of the Dead, right?
Right.
And Rework the Dead came from sort of a mix of those two influences. It's kind of embarrassing to look at now, but definitely Dawn of the Dead. Definitely James Cameron and George Romero in that one. Plans to redo that one sometime, but probably not anytime soon.
Any plans to integrate those into the Jack storyline?
Probably not. There are some ideas from Rework the Dead that show up in Jack, but I don't think they're really connected, apart from borrowing some ideas from each other.
Is Rework the Dead 2 a continuation or a remake?
I believe it's a continuation.
Alright, and what about the video game?
Actually, that was done by somebody else.
Fan project.
Yeah.
Alright, another basic question, but it begs asking, what are the sort of things that you drew a lot at as a kid?
Lots of monsters, lots of people getting their heads ripped off. I was a very disturbed young man. Just whatever came to mind as interesting at the time. Telling on myself a little bit, this is the little stupid child thing. For the longest time, I was really afraid of drawing girls. I didn't want to draw their boobs too big. I didn't want to draw them in an unflattering way. I was very scared of doing it incorrectly. The childhood fear of talking to girls manifested me not wanting to draw them.
I see.
But I've luckily gotten over that.
Yeah, I can tell. Do you ever draw non-anthro filth? I mean, content?
No. I just don't really have an attraction to doing something like that.
Good man.
I find lots of non-anthro stories interesting to me, or fun to read, or I get a lot out of them. But for me, creating something non-anthro would just I wouldn't be into it. I'd lose interest barely into the project. Plus, I find that when I'm, especially on the lower level that I'm at, if you get established, nobody worries about this sort of thing. But the lower level that I'm at, people are looking for things to be upset about, and
Really?
one of the easiest one of the easiest things for people to be upset about is the race, creed, or ethnicity of a character. And one of the benefits of doing anthro characters is that none of the characters come with that sort of baggage.
This is true. Alright, next question. Do you watch much animated content? Your Disney, your Western animation, even your Chinese cartoons?
I did in the past, not so much nowadays. It's really pathetic, stupid reason why. I don't like watching anime or animated stuff because I'm just, and again, this is really telling on me, but it's honesty, so I guess it's worth saying. I just get really jealous of it, right? Like somebody else's dreams got manifested onto the screen, but mine are still comics. But it's a little jealousy. I'm not denying them their success. I'm happy people get to achieve that, even if I don't. But just a little like, I'm happy for them, but why not me kind of thing. But
Right.
at the same time, I really need to shut up with that crap, because I did get to do a lot with my work, and it's gotten further than a lot of other people have, and I should really just get over my shit. But I don't tend to watch a lot of new movies or cartoons or anime, that sort of thing. Though I did watch, I went to the theater to watch, what was it? Godzilla Minus Zero was the last movie I saw in the theaters. Absolutely fantastic film. Best movie I've seen all of last year, and probably the best movie I've seen in a long time.
And why is that?
I think it's mainly to do with the characters in the movie, the human characters. Godzilla, of course, is he's Godzilla. He's going to rampage. He's going to tear things down. But the worst part of most of the kaiju movies that I've seen are the human characters. Their story is just not very interesting compared to Giant Monster. Yeah. But in Minus Zero, the characters were very interesting, and the story that they were telling was a good one. It was about a kamikaze pilot who chickened out and has to come home in disgrace. And when he comes home to a bombed-out Japan, and they need to rebuild, and he needs to start up a new life, and he needs to forgive himself for his own failings during the war. It was very touching and emotional story. I wept in the theater. It was a good movie.
That does sound interesting. So, as a writer yourself, do you have time to do much reading?
Once again, not as much as I once did. The reading that I usually do is now limited to books on tape that I can have playing while I'm working on my comic work. I'm doing much more of that nowadays than I think I've ever had in my life, drawing and just working on the comic projects I'm on. The fact that my time with Jack is ending is very exciting to me, because it means I get to do something else. But so not too much reading. Favorite books, probably Stranger in a Strange Land and Starship Troopers by Robert Heinlein. If you've only seen the movie, read the book. The movie to Starship Troopers is a movie about war against giant bugs. And the book is a book about military philosophy disguised as a book about war with the giant bugs.
Yes, I keep hearing about that. In fact, there was a YouTube video about the politics of the book and the differences between it and the movie. Pretty interesting stuff.
Ah, you must be a fan of Carl Benjamin.
Maybe. Is that a problem?
No, not at all.
Alright, cool. I gotta remember to talk about Jack more later, but first, I'd like to talk about how you currently work on your comics.
I try and keep right now I have 3 or 4 projects going at a time. I've got the last Jack story going. I've got a book or a comic that I want to try and publish, and a few smaller projects that are either commissions or just gifts I want to do for people. I try and do a number of projects at once, because if I have to focus on one at a time, I end up getting not overwhelmed, but what is it? It just starts to become tedious, and I end up not finishing the project. So I try and keep it varied. So my process right now is that at least once a week I draw pencil 1 page for each project. I have all the projects in the same pile, and then for the rest of the week I have a deck of cards, and I flip out a deck of card, and I count that many panels down, and I do a little bit of the inking, and then I flip another card, I count down, and then I do a little inking on that one, and I keep going in that way. Inking for me is the most tedious part of any project. It's like I've already drawn the page, but now I'm drawing it again. I've already done this part, but now I have to do it again. So if I found that if I make it into like a game, right? The process is easier. It might technically be slower than doing it the normal way, but it also means I get to finish it. Once the inking is finished, and for me, I like to do the shading by hand. That's done with well, right now I'm using Copic markers, and I do the majority of the shading by hand on the page right there. And I'll take the page home. I do a lot of my drawing work at my job, which is just sitting behind a desk. But I take the pages home, scan them in, and I'm trying to color 1 page a day, and I've been doing pretty good on that. The coloring process is scan the page, set the layer to multiply, and then color everything underneath the page. And that tends to go pretty quickly, especially since I've already done all the shading and stuff. And the only thing that takes any copious amount of time is any special effects, like if I decide that this panel needs some exquisite lighting or something, or I've got to make Jack's eyes glow. That takes a little time, but not too. I think I've got it down to a process, and I know that's a problem because it stops at some point being an artistic endeavor and becomes more of a manufacturing process. But I'm hoping that most of the creative stuff is done in the pencil work. But I don't know. I don't think I'm selling myself very good here.
No, you're doing just fine. So it sounds like you're still drawing pen to paper?
Oh yeah, not necessarily paper anymore. I think the majority of Jack is done on 8 by 12 or 8 by 11.5 sheets of printer paper. But I've since graduated to what size are these? 9 by 12 Bristol pages. So a little bit thicker stock, and I think they work out better.
Alright, so once those are inked, you scan them and take them into your software. But what software are you primarily using?
Right now I'm using CSP, Clip Studio Paint.
Do you use that for the comic panels as well?
Basically anything with color. Here, I will send you one of the recent pages that got done. Not that one. I can't give you anything with any extensive spoilers, I'm afraid.
eBay, here I come.
Good luck trying to sell it, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, here's one. You can have this one.
Interesting.
And you can use this one for your video. Some of the effects I do in CSP is panel 2. I make Lisa's fire glow, and I had to darken up both Lisa and Central, and then erase some of the darkness to create sort of the glow that is showing there. There's some speed lines that are going on in the background. Most of the sky is airbrushed in, especially that bit at the bottom where because Central and Lisa both have deep black parts of their body. I have to lighten up certain areas so they don't blend in with the background. But I think that one came out all right.
Yeah, looking good to me. Coming along nicely. Though I must confess I'm way, way behind on Jack.
No problem. I want to also give you... I want to give you the original page so you can see what the pages look like when they go into the scanner. That one's a little bigger. I apologize.
Yeah, that's what she's... Interesting. So it looks like that's already inked before it goes into the scanner.
Yeah. The pencils and the inks and the marker shading are all done by hand. I should point out that the lettering for... I normally do my own lettering, but the lettering for Jack is being done by a wonderful guy named Paul Seed, who volunteered to help translate my crappy penmanship for this one.
Gotcha. Well, while we are already on the subject, we might as well go ahead and breach it. I know you've answered this question before, but for the audience, what was the initial inspiration for your comic, Jack?
In its inception, Jack was a response to the Columbine shooting. I remember where I was when I got the news about that. I was in the mall. I was with my baby sister, and I was trying to explain to her how easy it was to make people smile. And then we find out about that. Angry Brian was the first comic I drew with Jack, and it was more of a cathartic thing at the time. So that if you remember how Columbine played out, two kids they run rampage in the school and they end up shooting themselves, and then that's kind of it.
Right.
I kind of wanted a little bit more to happen to them than them just shooting themselves. So I tried to do a story where they have to face up with their victims after they died, and then meet with the Grim Reaper. And so that's where that story came. After that was done, I felt like there was potential to do more with Jack's character. And I had been thinking about doing a regular comic just to do it. My father had always told me, if you want people to become regular readers, you have to be a regular producer of things. And I thought that Jack would be an interesting character to do an entire series out of. At the time, I started working on the next story, which was going to be the Fnar the Unborn story, which I intended as more of an introduction to Jack as a character. I really didn't have any plans to do it for a long term, and I didn't have a long-lasting story in mind for Jack. But that was the inception. A number of the early stories, you'll be able to see that there really wasn't a long-term plan for the characters or for Jack. There was the early stories were more of a disaster of the week kind of story. I had watched something about the X-Files a little while before, and they had talked about the early seasons were just a monster of the week story. I thought, okay, well, I'll have a disaster of the week kind of comic. Today it's going to be a school shooting. Tomorrow it'll be an airplane crash. The next day it'll be an office shooting. And so that was the early stories. And after I ran out of disasters, I had to come up with the characters' personal stories, which is kind of why a lot of the early stories, the lore doesn't mesh with later stories. And there are things about the early stories that I would change if I were ever to redo it. But after 20 years, I'm not redoing shit.
Yeah, don't want to pull a George Lucas.
No. People will just have to live with the inconsistencies. And as a fan of Star Trek, I found that one of the things people really enjoy about the franchises they get attached to are the inconsistencies that they can point out to other fans and argue over.
Yeah, it shows that you're human. Wait a minute.
Yes, I am in fact human, but
But yeah, as you say, at some point it changed from a disaster of the week format to having more dramatic elements, more world building, long-term elements, that sort of thing.
It did, yeah. But that was out of necessity. Couldn't have Jack just keep showing up at at fatal incidents and keep it interesting. Eventually, there had to be an emotional connection with the character, and I thought it was a really good idea to have him be. He's there as a punishment, and he doesn't know why he's punished at the time, which gave me plenty of time to come up with something, and it started to feel like a real story after a little while. And then, of course, once it started feeling like a real story, I was damned to complete it. So,
Well, you did this to yourself.
I did, yes. I don't blame anybody but me. If I were to go back in time and meet a younger version of myself and give him some advice, I'd say, go to trade school.
Well, spoilers aside, do we ever find out what got Jack into the position as Grim Reaper?
Actually, it's already been revealed in the comic. You're way behind.
Yeah, I really am. Anyway, I'm just trying to cover more of the general questions here.
No problem.
For instance, what's the meaning behind the name Fanar?
It's an internet acronym for no apparent reason. It was suggested by my wife. We thought it was cute, so we went along with it.
Alright, fair enough.
It seemed to fit him, but and it sort of fits the trope of names having multiple meanings. Where Fanar is supposed to be the innocent character, so for no apparent reason seems to fit. Jack is a rabbit, and the love of his life was a rabbit named Jill. So Jack and Jill, Jack Rabbit, Jack the Reaper. Central is the lead angel, so she's the central angel. And Farrago is a chemical word that means a confused mixture.
Oh good, I was gonna ask about that name too. And that leads me to another question.
Real quick, one
Sure,
more.
go ahead.
Bob and Lisa, the two cannibals. Bob and Lisa comes from a acronym. My wife was working at a grocery store at the time, and they had an acronym called Bob and Lisa. Bottom of the bag and look inside always. To make sure you're not stacking eggs at the bottom of the bag or something like that.
Never would have guessed.
I apologize. What was your question?
Perfectly fine. Feel free to interject. You are the guest, after all.
Well, you're the interviewer. You can't let the guest run the show.
Nah, that's the whole point.
But don't you know that the best guest is the guy who makes the host look good?
Oh yeah, you're doing a fine job at that, but me, I'm showing my complete inexperience at this. Mom always said I had a voice for silent films. Anyways, is there ever any logic behind the species you assign to certain characters, or is it just random?
Typically not. When I want to do a story that has a racial tone to it, or has ethnicity as a part of it, I sometimes will. This really hasn't shown up in Jack too much, but if I want to comment about Black Americans, I'll use a lizard character, or if I want to comment about Asian Americans, I'll use a skunk character. I love lizards and skunks, so I'm happy with that. Birds tend to be, I think, more Chinese, but if I'm doing that. But for the most part, all of the animal characters are interracial and can be swapped in and out for whatever reason. For example, there's a scene in the second Friday the 13th comic I did where a shop owner was side-eyeing one of the characters that came in, and they mistook him for being upset that a lizard was in his store, but it turned out not to be the case. But if I'm trying to do something with where the race of a character is not paramount, but is mentioned, then I will sometimes use species.
I guess you could say that was a reptile dysfunction.
Well, this interview is over.
Good night, folks.
No, go ahead. What do you got?
So before I forget, what's the deal? Why is it that Fanar has no nose?
Okay, so the reason Fanar has no nose is originally I had drawn his nose in, and then a couple panels later I had forgotten. And I tend to use the last panel I drew as a reference for future panels with those characters. So after I'd forgotten once, it was over. His nose was gone. I think this was in the Mr. Smith Goes to Hell story.
Is that really the reason?
That's it. I'm sorry. I know there are a number of fan reasons why Fnar doesn't have any nose, and those are much better than the one I just gave you.
Oh, really? Can you enlighten us?
It doesn't really come to mind, but I remember reading on the old forums that people had started coming up with theories as to why Fnar had no nose. But the truth is that I just forgot to draw it once, and that was it.
Now, what was that we said about human mistakes?
There are definitely a lot of mistakes in Jack. I don't pretend to claim that it's any kind of infallible Bible about anything. So
Yeah. Now, you did say you're currently working on the official ending of Jack, correct?
My planned ending, yes. When we started, when I started thinking about where the story would go or how the series would end up, I started coming up with my ideas for the ending, and I'm working on that now. It's going to be a 4-part story. The first part is finished. The page I sent you is from the second part, and that one's nearly finished now. I think I've got 6 or 7 more pages left to color on that, and that'll be finished. And then part 3 is halfway through the inking process, and I have to get it over to Paul, have him letter it, and then do the coloring on it. And 4 hasn't even been started yet, but I believe 4 will be the easiest of the 4 parts to finish. And that'll be it for me. I've done my run on it. Although I've recently, not recently, but maybe like a year ago, a gentleman, Darkwing Dude, came up to me and asked about my plans for Jack, and he made it known that he was interested in continuing the series and writing stories for it. And I said, yeah, go right ahead. That'd be fine, because I kind of like the idea that the comic continue after I'm done with it. Just let another group of creators take over and maybe give it a little legacy at that point. Just it'd kind of be a dream come true to have this comic outlast me, right? Like become sort of a legacy comic inside the fandom, and that'd be kind of cool. And which means it'll become successful the day I die, and then everybody else will make the money off it. But that's just how art works, I guess.
Sometimes that's the way it is. In addition to the character Jack, the character of Drip also plays an important role in the story. Would you care to explain that?
Drip is probably the most personal character in the comic. Not that I condone anything he does. Please don't get that impression.
Of course.
It's more when I look at the evil bastard that sits inside me, and it's the same evil bastard that sits inside of everybody. Drip is pretty much what I find, and I use him often as a way of exercising that feeling or those feelings. And I know a lot of those feelings come from my troubled history with my own mother, and not great upbringing, to be honest. At least where she was concerned. My father was amazing, but as I'd said previously, he was barely ever home. My mother and I, there's a lot of things I don't really want to get into in this interview, but suffice it to say, it wasn't great. And there was a lot of deep-rooted negative feelings that I still have that have come from the character Drip has been useful to me in that it has allowed me an avenue to exercise those feelings, to get those negative thoughts out of me and sort of like trap them on paper. And that is his purpose. Unfortunately, because he's such a personal character, he's also the go-to for critics and things who want to attack me for things in the story. And they're critics; they're allowed to do that, and it's definitely not beyond a reproach or anything like that. But yeah, Drip is a personal character. He's the guy that reminds me of the little dark bastard inside myself that I never want to see let loose. And luckily, I have the perfect avenue to get him out of my system, and that's drawing him and if in talking. Well, no, I'll take that back. In talking about him with other people, I know I've offered this sort of avenue for other people's sort of little bastard inside them. And I feel like it's probably maybe made the world a little bit of a better place, introducing people to the idea that they don't just have to let that fester inside them. They can find a way to work it out in a way that doesn't harm anyone.
Exactly. It's kind of like looking through a mirror darkly.
I don't 100% understand the reference, but yes, sure.
Well, in other words, everyone has a dark side.
I'm pretty sure everyone does.
And you can't just let it sit and fester unattended, or it might just go crazy.
Well, that's true. And the wonderful irony of Drip, right, is that in allowing him to go rampant, to rampage on a page, on a piece of paper, I'm just letting out things in the feelings that I have in a way that is safe for other people and gets it out. Whereas people who have attacked and criticized me for it have done far more damage to people in the real world than I have ever done with the character.
Really? Tell me more. Of course, we shouldn't name names.
No. I'm not going to list names. They're not worth naming. But just some of the anxiety that people have caused me, have caused my wife, have caused people in my family, have caused friends of mine, and just I'm the guy who draws the evil blue rat, but they're the guys who are actually hurting people.
Have you had bad run-ins with fans?
I have, yes.
I'm sorry to hear that.
That's it's sort of part of the deal, I guess. Is if you're gonna have people read your stuff, you're gonna run in with people who take it too literally or too seriously, or don't recognize it as a piece of fiction and have invented some other explanation for it. But I've had people call me at home. I've had people call I had somebody call my boss at work and tell him shit.
Good lord.
Yeah, lots of fun. My wife likes to point out that we've got all the problems with being well known, but none of the benefits.
Yeah, sounds like it.
And I don't want to say all of that without mentioning that I have made some mistakes in my life. It's not that I've been a perfect person, and I haven't been 100% the greatest person in the world. And there's definitely some legitimate complaints that some people have, but definitely not the majority of the shit I get for Jack.
Yeah, well, no one's perfect.
I don't think so. Definitely not me.
But I think you've also mentioned that you get a fair amount of fan mail.
Not so much nowadays, but I did at some point. But to be honest, I'm not really... I don't have a lot coming out right now. I've decided to hold off posting the newest Jack story until I've got all 4 parts done. Right now, what is running on the Jack site are Darkwing Dude's collaborations. The stories that he writes and he gets artists to draw, and those go up. And he usually runs the scripts by me, so I've got some fair input in it. But the mail that's being the fan mail that's being got for Jack right now is really his, not necessarily mine.
Somewhere I did read that people have told you your comics have changed the way they think, something like that.
I have gotten a number of messages with that as the subject. So I've gotten like notes on FA or emails, or people have found me at conventions and that sort of thing. And while I don't want to push any specific theological way of thinking, I am sort of I have a little pride that I am able to make at least a few people consider it where they hadn't considered it before. I'm very bad with praise. I have trouble accepting it myself. It's a character flaw, and so when I get stuff like that, I'm both proud and I'm also like deeply embarrassed or I don't know what the right word is, but I'm just a little weird with it. Like I don't really deserve it. And I know that probably stems from things that happened when I was younger, but I find it easier for me to accept criticism more than praise, which is I think ass backwards, but there it is. But to your question, I have had some good communications with people who have were brought to think about bigger things in their lives or spiritual things or even consider spiritual beliefs. I'm one of my friends, one of my good friends right now, recently told me that part of the reason why they started liking Jack was, or the comic, not necessarily the character, they started liking Jack is because it opened their eyes up to the idea that they might be responsible for their own actions, and that the actions of other people, while can be damaging to you, it's really up to you to decide what how you carry yourself and how you would treat others. And I'm just kind of proud that I could give her that understanding. Or, now, see, every time I say something like that, a little piece of my head says, "Oh, well, if they thought that, then they were already on their way of thinking that on their. They were just looking for something to legitimize it." I have this. Are you familiar with the concept of the watcher at the gate of the mind?
Don't think I have.
Okay, there is a watcher at the gate of the mind, and his job is to stop you from doing stupid things. Right? If you have this idea, I'm going to jump off of a 20-story building, and if I flap my arms hard enough, I might be able to survive the landing.
I guess.
The watcher in your mind is supposed to say, "Hey, stupid, that's not going to work. You can't do that," and he keeps you from doing bad things. But at the same time, he's also the guy who tells you that when you say, "Hey, I think I should do a regular comic about this green Grim Reaper," he's the guy who says that is a stupid idea. People are going to laugh at you. There's going to be nothing but problem. And so every creative person has to sort of make a deal with the watcher. Like, I'll listen to you on these parts, but you have to listen to me on this. And occasionally the watcher gets a little too powerful, and especially when I'm trying to receive praise, because he'll say, "You don't deserve that. You'll just get a big head if you listen to that," or there's people who do better than you, who deserve that more than you do. It's a little back and forth with that mini ego that doesn't necessarily hate you, but just sort of wants to be a helicopter parent to you. I don't know if I'm making any sense, am I?
I think I get it. Is it perhaps part of your conscience?
Not the conscience. The conscience is there to tell you when you should feel bad about something. And that part of me is also fucked up. But, the conscience is supposed to tell you, hey, David, if you do this to this character, that's going to be really bad. And I say, "Oh, well, it's good for the story. I'll do it anyway." And then, Arlos gets sent back to hell, and I'm such a horrible person for doing this to this fictional character. But, again, am I making any sense?
Yes.
Well, thank you for lying. That's very nice of you.
I'm getting it. I just don't quite know how to explain it.
Oh, that's fine. Obviously, I don't either.
Anyway, I was going to say, you don't have to tiptoe around your spiritual beliefs. In fact, that's something that I wanted to touch upon as well.
Oh, no. As far as theological beliefs, I was born and raised Mormon. That was my grandmother's big thing, and my father was born and raised Mormon himself. He's since sort of abandoned that, and think he's more Celtic now. But anyway, I was raised in the Mormon church, and that sort of. Now, it didn't really take with me. I never really got behind the idea of organized religion. I don't chastise people for being involved with it. I know it's got its place. It just isn't really with me. I think anybody who tells you that they know exactly what's going to happen in the afterlife is trying to sell you something. But as far as personal beliefs, I do believe that there's a creator. It may not be an old man in the clouds, but it's some creative force called a god, monotheistic in that. The story of Christ dying for the sins of the world makes sense to me, in that this is by sacrificing his only son in such a way, it's a sign of God asking for forgiveness for the human experience, because there's a lot of things in life that just aren't fair, and I believe a benevolent God would understand why people are pissed off about that sort of thing. So, and I think I cover this in one of the Jack stories about my ideas about Christ and that sort of thing. But just to keep it short, monotheistic. There is a creator. I'm not 100% with the Bible. It seems to change its mind a lot. Plus, well, it may be inspired by God. It was written by men, and men tend to get things wrong over time. So,
Gotcha.
and there's a lot of things that make sense. There's a lot of things that don't really make sense. But I think in the end, you have to take in whatever you can and figure it out for yourself.
I imagine that your spiritual beliefs put you at odds with much of the furry fandom.
Not my theological positions, anyway. Mostly, it was my political positions that got me into trouble.
Really? See, I had no
because my theological positions allow for things like homosexuality and bisexuality, which the only thing with the bisexuality thing that I've ever really gotten in trouble with is my idea that if you're bisexual, that means you're not monogamous. But even the trans thing, I'm just as long as kids aren't involved, I'm fine with people deciding whatever they are. So
Gotcha.
really, my religious beliefs haven't really gotten me in trouble. Now the political beliefs, that's in a load of a big mess. Do you want to hear this shit?
Sure.
So I've been more of a conservative-leaning person my entire life, right? And that's not really been a problem with for people. They all knew I leaned conservative, or I had conservative beliefs, or as far as political views go. And that was all fine with everybody until 2016.
You don't say.
No. I can't really bring to mind what happened in 2016, but lots of people were. That must be it. I didn't like Zootopia, and everybody was really pissed off about it. Something happened in 2016, and lots of people were very mad about it. And knowing me as they did, they decided I would be a good person to attack for that sort of thing. It's not that I didn't really bring it on myself. When that thing that happened in 2016 happened, I remember making a journal post in FA saying, "Hey guys, that thing happened. Now it's up to us to show to people who didn't like that thing happened that it's not the end of the world, and we're not out to get them or anything like that, and that life will go on." And I remember the comments on that journal were just uproarious. The shit I got in response from it was absolutely awful. I was blamed for future events that never ended up happening. I was blamed for wars that didn't end up happening, gulags and concentration camps that didn't end up happening, and it was just a huge fucking mess, and number of people that I have known since my first days being in the furry fandom cut ties with me. One really special person to me, somebody I really admired, told me to go fuck myself, and that was the extent of his letter to me, and really upset me. And we haven't really talked since. Maybe once for a little bit of time after a mutual friend had died, and still really mad about that. Or not mad, but upset, I guess. I don't want to name any names because they're all really good people, and regardless of what they did to me, I still find them to be decent human beings, and I don't want to drag anybody through the mud or anything. But yeah, it's less my theological beliefs, more my political beliefs that have gotten me in trouble over the years.
Why am I not surprised?
Yeah, it's it's a very polarizing issue nowadays. I don't know why. It doesn't feel like anything's really changed all that much. But, there it is, I guess.
Why is this fandom so political all of a sudden?
I think it's because they're told to. I honestly believe it's not because we're suddenly inundated with people who have been subtly political. It's that a number of sources have come in and told people, hey, you need to be really scared / angry / pissed off about this sort of thing. And they've convinced them that, yeah, we really should be scared, pissed off, and angry about this sort of thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't think that the people who believe opposite to what I believe are bad people. They're all very good people. But I also think that some element has encouraged them into a fever pitch, and they're acting as anybody would who is scared for themselves or their loved ones. So I don't. Well, I think they're wrong. I don't blame them for feeling the way they do.
Well, that was depressing.
Don't worry, I'm still smiling. Whenever I get the chance.
So, instead of just coming right out and calling you an old man, I'll just say that you've been in this fandom for a while now. So, how would you say that the fandom has changed since you first became a part of it?
Oh, when I first started, everybody wanted to fuck vixens. Now it's something else. But other changes, like we just got done mentioning, it's become a lot more politically motivated, and I feel like not necessarily for the best. There seems to be a divide, just like everywhere else, that is not healthy and doesn't make us stronger. It just works to cut each other off from one another. And that's not to say that everything is now worse than it once was. There was a time in this fandom where we were eager to accept anybody who was downtrodden or didn't feel like they belonged anywhere else, and that was to our detriment. There really should be a litmus test. I'm not going to get into specifics, but we were a little too accepting early on. But I think now we've just gone the opposite way. We're a little too exclusive now. But
perhaps we're a little too accepting in some areas. There have been some very public outings of predators over the recent years. Could things be getting worse, or is it just that we're noticing more now, thanks to social media?
No, we've always really had a problem with that, and but I think it's a little better now, or at least we're a little bit more aware of it.
Yeah.
The other thing I've noticed is that when I first started in, it was furry was very niche. We're not mainstream yet, but we're a hell of a lot closer than when I started, and
Right.
That's sort of exciting, and I'm happy for the next generation who's going to benefit from that sort of thing, and happy to do my part to have done my part to carry the torch that far. But yeah, it's It's both a very frustrating time to be in the fandom and a very exciting time to be in the fandom.
They were the best and the worst of times.
But then again, I think that's probably every time. Like we're living in that old Jewish curse. May you live in interesting times.
Oh yeah, where did I hear that recently?
Oh, probably at the synagogue.
Oh nah, I'm still a churchgoer, although ironically I'm an agnostic.
No, that's fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with church, and nothing about going to church guarantees that you have to believe in whatever's being preached.
Yeah, of course, and their chicken is pretty good.
Well, the chicken, Jesus, yeah.
So, what's your experience at the convention's been like?
I don't really think I can speak too much on it. I haven't been to a convention in at least a decade now. And when I did go to the conventions, I never really went to go to the conventions. I went to sit behind the desk at the dealer's table. So I never really, I don't feel like I ever really experienced one. I just went to work, really. I'd take 5 days off of my regular work schedule, use my vacation time to go to someplace else to work. But I think I preferred that job over the one I normally have. The post-con depression was absolutely horrible, because I mean, think of it. You spend 3 days at a convention around your friends and your colleagues and your fellow artists or your peers, and amongst fans who tell you you're the greatest thing ever, and then immediately, almost as soon as that event has happened, you're right back at home, sitting behind a desk with nothing going on, just nobody talking to you. So, yeah, post-con depression was horrendous, but I really stopped going because I felt like I was sort of aged out of the event. I wanted to stop just sitting behind the table, and it felt like I didn't really fit in with the people who were going to the cons anymore. So I just sort of stopped going.
I see. So you weren't selling that many Jack body pillows and Fnar stress balls?
I don't think those were ever on the merch list. But no, every time I went to the cons, it was a very financially good decision. I mean, it cost so much to fly myself and my wife there, and we get our hotel, but we'd always make more than we spent going to the cons. We always came back with more than it cost to go there. But I just didn't really feel like I was fitting in with people. And this was, of course, after that thing in 2016. But I think I was a little depressed after all that. I might go back to one. I don't know. That little watcher at the gate we talked about before keeps telling me, "Oh, you embarrass yourself. And you're not welcome there. They don't want your kind around."
I don't know. In certain places, does Seattle have a con?
You mean Rainforest?
Oh God!
I think that got shut down. I was at that con, but I didn't get the experience that everybody else seemed to have. I thought it was just a normal con, but apparently it was a disaster.
Yeah, apparently so. Well, maybe one day it'll return.
Yeah, we can bury it. It's fine. Just call it something else.
Yeah, I don't think they'll ever live down that name. Well, next question. Is there any advice you can give to new budding artists out there?
Yes, go to trade school. The best advice I could give to budding artists is just do the work. You're going to be you are known for the last thing you put out, and not the last thing you worked on, just the last thing that other people have seen. That's what people will remember most. It's more important to get the work done than it is to get it perfect. I've known several super talented artists, people who are way more talented than I am. They have just scores and scores of unfinished projects just sitting on their shelves that they'll never get done because they never think it's perfect, and they don't want to put out anything that isn't perfect. Anybody who's read Jack knows that my shit is not perfect, but it is out there. That's the big thing. You've got to you've got to get the project out there. If people can't see it, then what was the point of you making it? And what's the phrase? Sometimes you have to let the babies leave the nest.
And that goes right along with Jack.
Oh yeah, that baby is leaving the nest. Thank God. But maybe maybe it'll reach its peak on the next group of artists who work on it. So
Perhaps it will.
I sincerely hope that the next group of artists surpass me.
I bet that'll be a big weight off your shoulders.
Oh yeah, I'm not doing it anymore. So
And once you finish that, will you continue Friday the 13th?
yes, I want to finish Friday the 13th. I really kind of love the franchise of Friday the 13th, not just because the main character has mommy issues, but just it was something that was always like every time we go to the rental store, I would sneak into the horror section and I'd look at the covers, and Freddy and Jason were always there, and I would always just sort of ponder what the stories. Like I said, I didn't see my first R-rated movie until I was 16, right? And I just ponder what the covers meant, or the pictures on the back of the box meant, and So I really want to finish, do all at least the first 10 Friday the 13th movies or stories. I think I've got some good angles on them, and I think they'll be pretty great. So Friday the 13th is definitely in the pipe for the future. I'm working on a couple stories that I'm going to do in print. We experimented with the Friday the 13th comic to see if print is something that we can't do, and the books look magnificent. We ran 100 copies, so I've still got plenty left. I'll be able to give more to Roz with the next convention she goes to. But printing is good, so we're going to... Printing is good, and I can afford it. That's the important thing. So we're going to make more, and we're going to sell them at the conventions until we can find a distributor who's interested in taking them. So I got print comics in the work. Those probably won't show up online, at least not until well after the release. I also have an idea for a more regular comic series to be done after Jack, and so I'm going to move on to different projects. It's just time for Jack to go off on its own. Time to leave the nest.
Do you think you'll be drawing for the rest of your mortal life?
Yeah, honestly, yes. It's really the only thing that makes me special. Otherwise, I'm just an average human being, and so I have to keep doing it if I want to keep being relevant, not just to the world, but to myself. So I'm going to continue working, probably right up to the point where AI is so good that you don't need to commission an artist anymore. You just tell the computer to do it, and well beyond that, I think. So I'll just constantly be drawing. It's a curse. I'll just keep doing it.
Do you prefer to work alone or with others?
Well, I've never really had the opportunity to work. Well, no, that's not true. I did work with Roz on a couple projects. If I could do more projects with Roz, I would. I suppose it depends on the people I work with. I've long wanted to be in a position where I draw and somebody else inks, but that's never really worked out. Yeah, all the collaborations I've done with Roz have been good for me, and I've enjoyed those. And she's very good at backgrounds where I suck at them, and I'm probably a little better at making the characters emote than she is. But so we fill in each other's gaps. But if I could, you remember I mentioned the book Stranger in a Strange Land as being a favorite, right?
Yes.
There's a character in that book called Jubal, and Jubal is one of the many things he does is he's got several ladies who just listen to every idea he has and then goes off and writes the book or makes the script or writes the song or something. So if I could be in a position like that, where I just say, hey, here's my idea for a story, go write the script and produce it, that would be ideal.
The idea, man.
Yeah, mostly so I don't do the work, but
And you also collaborated with your wife, Katie, on a project called Long Island.
Yep, I did work with Katie, and I'd work with Katie again. But Katie's not really interested in the furry fandom anymore, and that's understandable with all the crap we've gone through
Right.
in it. And so she has other pursuits that she wants to go to, and she's always been very good with everything she's set her mind to do. There was she had a big Power Rangers streak for a little while there, and although it's not my favorite show, I was really happy to see her create her own costume and take it to one of the. I guess there's a regular Power Ranger convention in San Diego. She took it. We went to one of them, and she took the costume, and she won a prize from it, and I was very happy for her. And pretty much everything she sets her mind to do creatively, she does incredibly well with it. So of course I'd be willing to work with her again. It's just that she's not very interested in doing furry projects anymore.
Understandable. Well, real quick, what was the inspiration behind Long Island?
Just really wanted to do a sort of a Stephen King-esque story. There's a little bit of the mist in it. I had read the novella right before working on it, and so wanted that sort of vibe to it. So Stephen King-esque. We had ideas for continuing the story. For a little bit, we thought making it as a visual novel could be the way to go, but probably not really going to work on it until either her schedule clears up and she's interested in doing it again. But really, I don't want to work on it without her, since it's our project. I'm content leaving it alone until she's ready to work on it.
I gotcha. Anyway, that blending of visual styles is very striking. Love it. But on to the next question. Who or what possessed you to write an adaptation of Pink Floyd's The Wall?
Just wanted to try something different. Like I had said before, I have to keep several projects going at once, or else I get bored of it and stop doing it. The Wall was just one of those several side projects.
Alright, next question. What is When Summer Woke?
When Summer Woke was a novel that I wrote a long time ago. It got published by For a Planet, but I think it's out of print now. It's a story about Drip's early life. I can't really call it canon anymore. It just doesn't really fit in with things I believe about the character any longer.
Final question. Where can our audience keep up to date with your works?
For Affinity, I know you got that. The Jack Comic page, or the Jack Comic site, I just gave you the link to. That's about it. The blog for Jack gets updated once a month by Darkwing. He usually gives people an update on where I am with my part of the collaboration. If I have a new project that I want to tell people about, I usually do it on FA.